and I mean that's like, and this is related to Bernie too, and Ocasio-Cortez, because like, okay, Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez, they do get shit for being, I mean, of course, like there's always the conservatives and the liberals are arguing about social issues, but Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez do get criticized by the establishment because they want social democracy as opposed to neoliberal capitalism. But Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez are still acceptable politicians because they still support the U.S. war machine, and that's like the biggest thing that the actual left hates about Bernie, is that like we could almost sort of like kinda support some aspects of Bernie if he wasn't a fucking imperialist, because like Bernie is an absolute social chauvinist. Like he thinks that Americans should have a little bit of an easier time at the expense of other countries. Like,
well, I mean, I don't think he openly is like that.
Well,
but sure,
no,
like,
but he
like yeah, definitely like in his own like personal
Well, I mean,
ideals, like he is some level of social chauvinist.
I mean,
Yeah, but
he
the old-
openly admits what the U.S. did to Latin America, though, and Telesur itself, like the
Sure,
Venezuelan state
sure,
news
but-
agency, yeah, but Telesur likes Bernie, though. I mean, like if Venezuela really thought Bernie was an imperialist, and why would they endorse him?
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
they endorse him because he's like the left wing, the most
Yeah, but
most
they're gonna
left
get
of
bombed
the.
either way, though. That's what
Well,
you're
no, but like Bernie literally Bernie has not ever done anything to support Venezuela. Bernie literally calls Maduro a dictator. Like,
Yeah, but
well, I mean,
doesn't
he
do
used to.
much
I think he
for us.
recently had like a change of heart.
When-
I think
when
recently he like
when
came out to say that
he's
Venezuela is
generally-
actually not
he's
that
voted
bad.
for wars, like admittedly, but I mean he's the most anti-war politician like in mainstream politics, ultimately.
Yeah,
well,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they don't accept anti-war politicians into mainstream
Yeah.
politics, but like,
yeah.
it's
even Bernie, who's like like Zach said, who has previously voted for certain wars, like even him, like they're like, no, he's too far,
Well, like Bernie, he said that he is going to do everything to prevent a war with Iran, and I was thinking, well, okay, well that's good, since like you're saying that you're going to oppose a hypothetical war in the future, but you're not going to do anything to oppose like the actual shit they're doing to Venezuela.
Well, he
And,
has said, like, I mean, I've seen him like say some things about the whole Venezuela thing, but I mean, clearly he's trying to like be low key about it, because as soon as Bernie, like, you have to understand the position he's in, right? Because like,
I mean, if he were to defend Venezuela, like actually, then of course the media is gonna call him like, "Oh, you support communist dictatorship and
yeah,
whatnot."
exactly.
And
Like, it would be a really like big shitstorm for Bernie, And I think his strategy is just like trying to, get like the left's foot into the door when it comes to public appeal, right? And I think like, of course Bernie is not radical enough, and of course he ultimately is a social democrat, but what the things that he's currently contributing to politics are not detrimental or useless. Like, they are at least a decent starting point. Like, of course, we can make comparisons to like Kotsky. Like, of course,
I mean, yeah, I suppose it depends on the
But
situation.
but nonetheless, he did manage to like bring over some more moderate people to like Marxist ideals.
I do think he was at least at one point like a real socialist, because I mean he did like condemn was actually in like a socialist party, like not like the Democrats.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
he also vacationed
was,
to the USSR, so like let's not forget that.
Yeah, but like over time, and then like when he became like semi acceptable, he had to like drop all of that, and like,
yeah,
I mean, if you read like I recently did an audiobook of the maybe you can link in the description or something on Lenin's Tasks of the Proletariat in Our Revolution. It's on my second channel, Marxist-Leninist Theory, and in that, like, Lenin devotes a lot of time to the question of the First World War, and he separates like these three trends in the discussion, like in the socialist movement. He says that there's the right wing trend, who are the open social chauvinists who support the war. Then there's the left wing trend, who are internationalists who actually concretely do things to oppose the war and try to advocate for revolution against the government instead of going to war. And then there's the centrist trend, who are like covert social chauvinist, or he calls them social pacifist. So they basically say that they want peace, but they don't actually do anything. And
what can he do though? I mean, he's just a senator for Vermont.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but like basically the point is that, of course, like the point is that if he doesn't actually want to take a stand against the, like basically to be in favor of peace, he would have to challenge the establishment, really. And of course he doesn't want to do that. And like, I don't know how he would, but like that's what's happening. He doesn't want to challenge the system because that would, cause him a lot of problems. Like then he wouldn't be, he wants to have influence within the system, and of course he's not going to be able to do that, like, because he's not trying to overthrow the system from the outside. He's trying to get into it.
He has influence on the public discourse though, and that's why in some ways like the progressives are actually helping us, like people like Jimmy Dore and shit like that. They are actually,
well, Jimmy Dore is coming even closer and closer to fucking Marxism. It's kind of hilarious.
Well, like this, I mean, this relates to what Polinkosh said earlier about Kautsky. It's because Kautsky obviously used to be like the mainstream face of socialism until the war happened and there was the big split and everything.
Yeah.
Like what Lenin says in the book is that from like the 1870s to the First World War, Kautskyism was like okay, but then this thing happened which forced them to adapt to a new situation and a new line, and at that point Kautskyism fucking became super exposed itself as being super opportunist.
Yeah.
And I think Bernie is like similar. Yeah, like Bernie is maybe similar in that, like, in this situation he maybe has a positive influence, but like if there was
in the long run he's going to be less relevant.
If there was if it was a competition between actual leftists and Bernie, then obviously Bernie would be like horrible. Right. But since people just settle for him because he's like the only thing there is.
Yeah, but I mean,
of course,
don't have any power though. Communists here don't have any power whatsoever.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, but once again, it's not, ultimately it's not about people, it's about conditions, right? It's about the material conditions. And as crises get worse, as these inevitable economic depressions lead to a consistently decreasing living standard, people are eventually going to realize that Bernie is not enough.
I mean, go to who though? That's the problem. Like the communists today.
I think people will come out eventually, right? Like just because there's no like one really cohesive. I mean, even in Lenin's time, there wasn't one cohesive sort of praxis in the left, right? Like, yeah, sure, Lenin was big but the thing is that
sort of big. Like, I mean, like when Lenin was talking about the fucking Zimmerwald International, which was like the people who opposed the war, he said that the entire fucking Zimmerwald International, the entire representatives of the entire leadership of the anti-war socialists could fit into like 2 fucking horse carriages. Like, he's like, if 85% or something of these, I mean, because if like almost everybody in the Second International turned opportunist, then it's like things changed. Like they were really small at one time too. So
what I'm saying is communists are really not thinking of like actual ways to build their political power, and most of them just kind of
I disagree.
Talking to people about communism on the street, like That won't like make you have a giant fucking communist party.
I mean, of course.
Well, I mean,
but
if
we
you had a
have to-
million people doing it,
Well, yeah,
it
I
would.
mean-
yeah, but I mean we don't.
But
so.
the thing is that you like you're kind of like you're kind of being naive because we're not in the prime conditions right now to be able to, you know, blast off a communist party. Like these things happen very rapidly. Like historically, it's not as if there was like this, you know, consistent growth in communist support over like 50 years and then like, you know, like
Yeah, I mean, it's very much zigzag.
There's things
it's like, you know, like in the 1880s it was like 20%
like
and then
most
it
people
slowly
don't
went
even
up. Like no, it happened rapidly. Like there was a very sudden and rapid growth in communist support because the conditions called for that.
I don't know, like
most people don't do activism though. Like most communists do not do activism, at least that I've talked to on the internet.
I feel like we should have like an entirely separate thing where we discuss this because this is like a really important topic and it's really fucking difficult.
Yeah, that's true.
We could do a video on Praxis or something at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make a what is to be done part 2.
But yeah, at least we're talking about it, you know, because like most people don't even talk about Praxis at all.
I really want to make a what is to be done part 2 video, and like because I really want to expand on how the left has to like be more and like we have to assimilate more proletarians and not just be all students, and we have to be more involved in union organizations and try to hijack them from the bourgeois establishment. Like
I mean, like I'm just gonna say that you have. No, sorry to cut. I mean, you
I was
first.
pretty much done. I was pretty much done.
Well.
And like yeah, I mean, but obviously like it would be a good idea to like include you guys in that video because originally I just wanted to do it like on my own, but I mean obviously you guys you know also have a lot of good things to say about what Praxis should be right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously like what I'm gonna say is that if you're a communist, like you either have to do some kind of organizing or something along those lines, or you have to have some kind of reason why you're not. Like, if you have some kind of strategic reason or some like actual reason why you don't think you should, then okay. But if like a lot of people, especially Americans, like it's so crazy. I see all these Americans. I'm like, okay, are you a member of a party? Nope. Are you a member of a party? No. Are you a member of like what do they do? They just sit there and like.
Most people right now are apolitical.
I mean, I'm talking about fucking communists. Like they're not in any organization.
Well,
like fucking
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like fucking like Zach here, obviously. Like, okay, he's not in a party, but he's still in an organization doing something because that's like what he thinks should be done. But like he's at least trying to do something. Like there's all these people who they don't do anything just because like I don't know.
The problem is that a lot of these people are very like committed to just like getting their life going right now, and because like
it's not a good excuse though.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. Right?
Well, if you're like actually incapable because you like, then that's something else. But
look at it this way though, right? Was Lenin 27 when he like started fucking like getting like super involved in fucking leftist organizations? Like no, like Lenin became
I don't remember how old he was. I mean,
Lenin became a big player like once his life was already like somewhat set, right? And
well, his life was pretty much fucked though because he studied. He barely managed to become like he was barely like his dad was a official, so and when his dad died they got like an official's pension, and with that money he was barely able to get his fucking university education, and I think he was almost fucking prevented because of political reasons, and then immediately afterwards he started his political career and he was just constantly like living in misery and poverty.
After he finished his like after he at least like you know got his life somewhat set. The thing is that most modern communists are in their 20s and early 30s right now, and
or even younger maybe.
And even younger than that. And so like to expect them to, you know, essentially throw like everything away to just go join a party organization and spend all their time like organizing.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about like I'm not
something every once in a while.
Of
yeah,
course,
I'm not talking.
I agree,
I'm
but I'm just saying that people.
yeah,
like,
but I'm not talking about like going to the fucking Bolivian jungles and like never coming back. I'm talking about
no,
like
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I understand like very small things like, you know, demonstrations and
no,
passing
well, no,
out
like
pamphlets
just
and,
my well, it's not even that. Like like our friend and comrade Volker, who were talking about earlier, like he um like he told me, and like one time, because I was talking with him and somebody who wanted to join his party, PC USA, and like they like Volker was just saying that the most important thing is just consistency. Like if you join an organization and then you have some responsibility that you have to carry out, it's not that you just get this moment of inspiration, like okay, I'm gonna write some great fucking article or something and do this. Like no, you just have to consistently keep doing your own small little part.
yeah,
And that's how organizations work.
yeah, of course.
It's not like you don't have to sacrifice your entire life where you just like where you're in like life-threatening danger.
I understand. I understand, but just like think of it this way, right? You're a radical leftist and you're in college, right? And you know, as we know, like most radical leftists right now are students. Like we don't have a lot of proletarians in Marxist organizations.
Yeah, which is the problem, dude.
Yes, that is
literally the main problem.
I admitted that was a problem, like literally 2 minutes ago.
The main problem.
I wouldn't say it's the main problem, but it is a major problem nonetheless. So, but regardless, just like think of it this way, right?
That has happened because like the left was smashed in like. Well, okay.
Let me just finish this point. So, like, you know, the average radical leftist is a student, and clearly right now the conditions for revolutionary action is not prime. We are not in a prime situation we're getting close, absolutely, but the thing is that these things happen suddenly. They happen very rapidly and suddenly, like the growth of unrest and revolutionary action. But let me just finish though. So these students, right, they like their main focus is just trying to at least get some guarantee of living standard, right? Like some level of you know, like education,
sure,
so they can get a job.
Yeah, but they're dumb. They're dumb though, because that doesn't work anymore.
I understand.
What does it?
But my point is that as the conditions become more, as like the conditions become more like, you know,
worse.
Yeah, get worse. Like people will start seeing like now is the time to take action. Like
well, listen.
It's
like,
a very sudden thing.
But
we can compare this.
I don't entirely buy okay, so yeah, there's the objective conditions, but there's not actually anything preventing people from joining organizations right now. It's just that they like, because we are still like subjects, we are individuals, and I feel like it is this like culture of pessimism and apathy where people don't think they should do like, because
true, but then
I started like I joined a party when I was still a student, like, but like I'm just gonna say about the student thing, like the reason we have so many students and we have like less workers is because like in a lot of these parties all over the world, like all over the Western world anyway, you see like the party leadership and the parties are maintained by really old people, and then have like a lot of young people who have just come in, and it's because like in the last couple of decades the communist movement was like decimated, and that's why they didn't get any new people. So like there's not a lot of people who are like in their 40s. There's a lot of people who are in their 60s, and then like people who are in their 20s, but like the generation between them is missing because that's like when the communist movement was smashed.
Right.
And I think like in the next 10 years you know, when a lot of these people who just joined the movement now, like obviously they're gonna enter the workforce, and that's when we're gonna start getting more of a connection to the working class, like trade unions and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just
Well, let me say this. I find the current situation very comparable to shortly before World War One. Actually, not just then, but also around Marx's time. It's himself, and so right now we see sort of a division, a natural division between the socialist movement and the workers' movement. And the socialist movement primarily consists of these, you know, intellectuals, like student types, you know, and they're not directly associated with the working class, but they're you know, they're talking about and organizing along, you know, working class issues. And then
I mean, I went from being like
shit, though.
And then you have workers' movements.
Me and Zach like went from being students to being fucking manual laborers, so we regressed.
And then, well, it's not that workers can't be
You
intellectuals.
should have mostly
I'm
like
kidding.
proletarians, though.
But
I mean, like, how are you going to have the connection to the trade unions without anyone?
Right.
In the
So
party?
let me explain. Let me explain then, because when we originally went in Marx's time, when there was a split between the socialist and the workers' movement, this is a natural result of just, you know, of just how socialism develops. You have the intellectuals who sort of build their own enclaves, and they fucking, you know, like do all this socialist theorizing, and then you have the workers' movements that are like they're
spontaneous resistance.
Yeah, exactly, and like they're not as organized or centralized as these socialist movements, and they, you know, they consist of, you know, primary workers like issues, you know, like wages, etc. And so Marx essentially said that you know, the socialist movement and the workers' movement need to and eventually will combine. They will come together, and that what comes out of that will be the communist revolutionary movement. The sort of you know, the assimilation of socialist intellectuals and workers combining, the workers' movements combining, and them, you know, taking charge. And
why would the workers' movement want to join you in the first place, though, if you can't offer them anything?
Because what happens is the conditions the conditions get so bad that those workers' movements recognize that the socialist movement is really the only movement that has a clear and cohesive solution to the problems that workers face.
They're not going to recognize that inherently.
They will recognize that inherently because of the conditions. Like, I get what you're saying, right? Like, obviously the socialist movements have to, you know, be involved, and they have to like take charge in unions,
yeah,
etc.
But there's too many intellectuals, though. I mean, it's not like half.
But the thing is, like, my problem with my problem with this sentiment that you're like holding is that you're acting as if socialists are like, you know, have like free will, and that the reason why communism is not popular is because socialists are just bad at what they do. That's not the case.
I mean,
there are objective conditions.
They don't do anything.
But the reason why
the fucking PragerU video is done, by the way. This is just like totally derailed, but I mean, this is way better than the fucking PragerU video anyway.
The point is that the actions, the actions that socialists take are, you know, a product of their material conditions. Now, like, and I just find
I don't apply that to communist.
I hate to be the fucking centrist, though. I hate to be the fucking centrist every single time, but like,
well, I mean, know, you have to look at it this way too.
I mean, yeah, because like you're being so fucking determinist. You're saying like, oh yeah, if the conditions are this, then like.
Well, I'm a determinist
like,
because
okay,
it's logical.
On a societal level, maybe, but considering that the Marxist movement, like let's say in the U.S., is like fairly small number of people, like the smaller the group, the more they can act. At least in my opinion, the more they can act just like based on subjective opinions and stuff like that. And I'm gonna like. when I've looked at this, I have like thought about like when Mao said like put ideology or put politics into command. Just like for once, like fuck the objective conditions. Just like do the thing you have to do. Like just put politics in command.
All right. I'm not saying that
sometimes like you can force shit just through sheer ideology, you know.
Right, but the thing is that that has a cause. Like nothing happens without cause. Nothing just happens for no reason. And I'm not using.
Oh, my heroin addicts. They're gonna do heroin.
Maybe maybe the universe has predetermined me to do this, but I'm still gonna use my own subjectivity to argue that people should join organizations.
Right. I mean, okay, listen. Let me just explain my position real quick, because it seems that you guys think that I'm just like trying to find some excuse for.
Well, no. You're explaining why, but I'm saying
I'm not excusing you know, like how I'm not excusing the inactivity of socialists today. Obviously, socialists should get more involved. I'm simply saying that it's more complex than just, oh, modern socialists are fucking lazy. I'm simply.
It's not that they're lazy, dude. I mean, some of them do stuff, but the shit that they're doing like does not make any fucking sense. Like if you don't have connection in actual workplaces, dude, you don't have shit.
Listen,
like, that's
I'm simply going off of Marxism. Like Marx himself said, men make their own what was it exactly? He's like, men make their own history, but like within their own conditions. Like, you know,
okay, I forgive them for not doing anything. I guess can they just start doing stuff now?
Well, I'm not saying that like obviously there should, like, here's the thing. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like the free will argument doesn't fucking matter because you consciously.
Let's not bring the free will argument into this. It's just think about this in a purely practical level. Like
but you misunderstand. You're assuming my position. I'm saying
no. We understand that the reason people don't do certain things is because the conditions are such.
Just let me finish what I'm trying to say. The free will determinist argument is fucking irrelevant. It's irrelevant because individuals perceive their own illusion of choice, and regardless of the knowledge that everything is predetermined, we will act based on our own perception and illusion of choice.
We get that, but
so, I mean, do you mastermate every time you get a boner?
Let's not fucking go down.
What is that even relevant?
No.
You've been so determinist. I mean,
what is that even relevant?
It doesn't fucking. Let's not go there. Like,
I mean, it's just like I just feel like it's just so fucking like it's just so like I don't know. It just seems like you guys are assuming my position because I'm really not trying to. I'm not trying to excuse anyone. I'm not trying to say, "Oh, we should just sit around and wait." I'm not.
I'm not trying to blame anyone either.
I don't think you're saying that either. But I think you're. Yeah, I mean, these people like they don't need excuses. Like
I'm just saying that it's complex. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, but listen, like, so here's the situation because I'm not a pessimist. I don't think it's hopeless or anything, but I'm just saying that like people need to join organizations, and the existing organizations need to like get better at doing the things they're doing. And I don't think it's impossible. Like,
yeah, but that's my point. Is like Zach's sentiment, and like I hear this from you all the time, Zach. Like, oh,
no, I mean he's very critical, but he's not wrong.
Modern leftists are so shitty. It's just like it leads to pessimism. That mentality leads to pessimism. To be a Marxist, you have to be fucking optimistic. And like, yeah, I agree. The current
so you're saying they're not really Marxist.
The current Praxis. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that
it's your logic, which I agree with.
No, I'm saying that the sentiment that you hold that like that modern socialists are just bad at what they do, it leads to pessimism.
I mean, I don't think it's that they're modern. I just think it's because they're bad.
Well, okay.
But what does that even mean?
I'm curious. So, Zach, what do you think we should do?
I think mainly we should just fucking start unions in workplaces and have a communist leadership. I mean, the point of like
start
the
new unions.
Well, we should hijack.
Well, you don't have to start new unions.
Like steal them from the bourgeois establishment. Like
so just join and try to get influence.
Yeah, well, otherwise, like, what does the
that
Communist
makes
Party
sense.
have in terms of like political power, like
I mean,
actual things that you can wield against the bourgeoisie besides
I
like
mean,
a friend,
obviously you don't.
a friend group?
Obviously, if you don't have power over the working masses, you don't have power.
right. I mean, me and
Yeah,
Zach hold
Obviously.
the same. Me and Zach hold the same position in Praxis. Like him and I both agree we have to be more involved in unions. There has to be more proletarian membership in Marxist organizations. We have to decrease these like idealist notions that many noob Marxists hold. We have to really get involved and start actually doing shit. We both agree. My quarrel with Zach's sentiment is not our praxis. It's simply the outlook, because I
don't think the outlook matters here.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, they're affected by capitalism,
and
right? But I mean,
and it's just like my point is that Zach, you just have like this very pessimistic like.
It's not that pessimistic. I mean, like, you should be ruthless to people who are not, doing their part.
I mean, of course, I'm just as cynical as you are, but I'm saying that
I'm not even cynical, dude. I'm just saying, like, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah, of course, and I agree with you on that. I'm just saying that like a lot of the time, what you'll do is you'll just like take it to this level of unintentional pessimism, where you're just like, oh, dude, socialists right now are just so shit.
Well, like, yeah, I don't agree with him entirely either, because in my opinion, like, he thinks we should just join unions and be communists.
No, I mean, not just do that, but I mean, that's
obviously demonstrations and fucking
focusing
well, because like
in
my opinion,
yeah,
like in my opinion, the most important thing you do is like you have to build up the parties, and obviously if the party, well, by joining them and then recruiting more people, like you gotta like, well, no, listen, like, you gotta join and then you gotta recruit more, because like the problem with the parties is they're too small, and everything comes down to the fact that they're too small. They don't have the resources, so the only way you're gonna make that better is by joining them, getting other people to join them. Then you get people who have new ideas, better skills, and then like
yeah, I mean, besides that,
when you're, and look, okay, so if you have a party, if the party doesn't have any sway over the working masses, then it still doesn't have any power. But you can't hope to have any sway if your party is like tiny, and like you have to have a bigger amount of people. And then like the fact that you are, if you are a member of a party and you are young, then you should do student activism. If you are working age, then you should do union activism while being a member of the party. Like, that's how the party, if the party has a lot of members who are also in unions, that's how the party gets influence over the unions.
Right. I mean, like, I also think it's essential that once Marxist organizations have grown to like a larger membership, there should be like some serious community interaction, like mass line type shit, where like, Marxist organizations will come into like their local community, like the local chapters will like do like they will like distribute food to homeless people, or
there's a lot of parties that already do that, but they don't have the union connection, so it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, right, it matters.
No, I agree with you that unions are
100% better than doing nothing. Like 100% better.
I'm completely in agreement with you about the fact that we need.
Which would you rather have? A party full of workers or a party full of students? Like, just answer that question for yourself. That's all.
Well, we all know
it doesn't have to be exclusive. It doesn't have to be.
You're right. It doesn't.
It's just that like
it's better to have workers than students.
Yeah, but the reason why we have more students than workers is because workers are simply more apathetic than students. Like, we have to like.
I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason is because like like maybe in the U.S. like the unions were smashed and everything, but at least here, like, the reason is that like the communist parties were absolutely destroyed in the 80s and 90s, and they didn't have any growth during those times. So like everybody who has come afterwards, they're young, so they're students, and all the people who were in those parties all along, they're old now. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you wait 10 years, the people who join the party now as students will be workers like in 10 years, but or 5 years or whatever. But like I think
Right.
in the U.S. it's a bit different. Like because
Well,
in
the
the
thing is
U.S.
that
the
in the
unions were
U.S.,
fucking smashed, and
the major unions are essentially controlled by the bourgeois establishment. But that's why, like I said,
but they have like all these anti-union laws. Like in the U.S., people
That
are
too,
not
yeah.
even fucking unionized. Like because
Oh
like
yeah,
here,
well, most workplaces aren't unionized, of course.
like here the unions are all led by social democrats and class collaborators who like they oppose strikes and they just want to like the
Yeah, I mean,
unions
it's
are
kind
like
of a similar
controlling.
situation here, but like worse.
Yeah, like the
Not
unions are
necessarily.
like the unions are like siding with the capitalist and like telling people not to strike, and then the union members are like forcing the union leadership to like accept the fact that they're striking and stuff.
You
But in
got
the US,
here. I'm gonna plug a movie because you guys were plugging movies. Actually, it's more of a documentary. It's called Final
way more
Offer.
relevant.
It's about the UAW. It's called Final Offer. It's about the UAW chapter in Canada against General Motors. Just fucking watch it. All right. Yeah. What were we gonna say?
So
I was just gonna say that in the U.S., like the fact that they have in the U.S. people are not even unionized, so like the union struggle in the U.S. is like even more important than, like here, what we have to do is to try to like oust the horrible like class trader like leaders of the unions, but in the U.S. it's more like even trying to get people into unions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, like obviously Marxist organizations in America need to not only infiltrate existing unions but create.
Well, it's
more
not even
unions.
infiltrate. It's just fucking like you don't have to be like all conspiratorial about it. Like just join the union. Like it's not infiltration.
I mean, when I say infiltrate, I mean like we want to hijack the unions from the bourgeois establishment that runs them. Like that's
They're not. They're not all bourgeois establishment though. I mean, they're
the
just
big ones are like the big ones. The big ones.
Yeah, but
are.
they don't.
Ask
They don't really
Freddie.
have fucking shit. Well, I mean, yeah, like the UAW just fucking did some corrupt ass fucking bullshit.
I mean, even the International Teamsters Union, like the one that I was part of, like the leadership of that union are like super bourgeois establishment. Like they don't really like do anything all that.
Well, yeah,
great
I mean
for
that's the
workers.
thing, right? But I mean, they still are the fundamental like defense of the worker from like super direct exploitation.
Yeah, it's still better to like at least have an organization that you can use. If it's only a matter of like having bad leadership, then you still have the organization there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, of course.
I mean, like starting a totally new union would be like a stupid idea.
No,
And
I
also,
agree.
like,
I
totally...
wasn't trying to argue that. I mean, that's the thing you can do, but that's like.
No,
Yeah,
but some
really
people do argue that.
But I mean, starting like smaller scale unions is like very like reasonable and practical, like for just like specific work.
It's reasonable in the sense that you can do it, but it's also stupid in the sense that it doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah, I mean the reason why.
I mean, okay, but for like major corporations, I agree with you, but for like smaller businesses, like yeah, I mean, obviously, like small businesses are being assimilated into the major corporations, but I'm saying like regardless of that fact, like small business workers should like attempt to sort of like have some level of unionization.
If you have some
like a better model for small businesses, I think.
Yeah, like because if you have some, like a big reason people join the union here is that if a big reason people join unions here is because like they give you basically insurance against unemployment. So if you get fired, then the union has a fund to basically give you like unemployment benefits. And can you imagine like a union of like 100 people or fucking 50 people doing something like that? They could never afford
and
that.
They have strike funds too. Like when you go on strike, they have like, fucking millions of dollars. Like you at least get half your paycheck. You know what I mean? You won't get the full.
Yeah,
paycheck.
exactly. Like that's not possible. Like with a small.
Of course,
union.
of course. But I'm saying like the thing is that not all small businesses have the luxury of just becoming fucking co-ops, right? Like they're nonetheless, those small businesses still have petty bourgeois owners that are not just going to be like, yeah, you know what, fine, we can set up a co-op. Like you still.
No, I agree.
You could still use a union.
It's just that they can just fire all of you. I mean, that's really the problem.
Yeah,
like,
but it's
big factories. They can't fire all the workers.
But the thing is that they don't want like they really don't want to fire all the workers and have to fucking because then they have to be closed for days so that they can find new fucking workers. Like that's the fucking problem.
Yeah, but a lot of
like
times
that happened with my fucking. That's literally what happened with the deli I was working at. Like we all like the owners like treated us like shit, and so we were all like, you know what, fuck it, let's just all quit, and like essentially go on strike, and it kind of like it kind of started like with them firing. Like what happened was like 3 of my coworkers like were like, well, they went to the owner and they were like, you can't treat us this way. And they like basically got in a fight with the owner, and so he fired them. And then we were all like, that's fucking bullshit, and so we all just quit. And then like the store was closed for like a week.
You should have went on strike though. You shouldn't have quit, but
well, I mean, he would have just fired us, like you said. But like the thing
yeah, but he did fire you though. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, he didn't fire me. I quit.
Small businesses are really shitty places to organize, like unless you're going for the co-op model. That's what I'm trying to say.
But nonetheless, it still puts a dent. Like you'll still like at least teach them a lesson to some fucking extent, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
They're gonna lose a ton of money by like that. I'm positive that the deli like lost a lot of money when they had to fucking like literally be closed for a week to hire new workers. Like
yeah, and like even the presence or the threat of a union will make the working conditions better ultimately, because even if the union is busted, they're gonna be like, oh shit, we don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, like when there was the big strike in January 2018, like literally every single person in my factory, which is like hundreds of people, like literally every single person was on strike, and it was like a political strike against the government, like against the government's like austerity measures and like punishing the unemployed, and like the corporation told us like, oh yeah, but remember guys that this is a political strike against the government, so like the corporation has nothing to do with this, like so like remember that we're not the ones to blame, like it's the government. So like even the corporation was like talking out to the strikers like yeah, we allow you to go on strike, but remember it's not about us.
That's funny. Yeah, that's still like kind of an elevated level of class struggle, though, that your entire factory would strike over austerity, and then the fucking company's so cucked that they literally do that shit. You know what I mean? Like that's like unthinkable here. It's been unthinkable for fucking like.
I mean that type of stuff has like has become more rare like in the recent times, because like the unions are so hesitant to go on strike, like they really don't want to, because the unions are led by social democrats who are also the ones doing the austerity. So like but it's like it was basically necessary for them to like let out a little bit of steam so people don't get too mad, they had to have that one strike.
Well,
nothing was achieved. It was merely a gesture. But although like the new government is like the current government is like paying lip service to like changing that law now, but it's still like it's already been proven to be bullshit, like what they promised. But they were paying lip service to like changing that, because people did get mad about it.
Well, I do want to finish up, because we've been like going on for like 2 hours now. So yeah, I'm actually gonna like take this whole like past like 30 minutes of discussion about Praxis. I'm just gonna upload it as another separate video entirely.